Hi, my name is Max, and today we want to show you the universal authenticity model and how, by following a strict set of behaviors, you can be the perfect communicator.
Max, I hate to interrupt, but I don't think you're being very authentic right now. My friends, there is not one strict definition of authenticity. There is no one universal set of visual, vocal, or verbal cues in order to be your best self in any and all situations. Instead, today we are going to tell you how to be your authentic self, but how to adapt it for different contexts. We're going to start by reiterating the importance of first impressions. But as you grow into new roles and responsibilities, you want to be able to adapt your persona as the situation demands. Finally, and maybe most importantly, we want to discuss how to stay authentic as you move across culture and context. Now, as much as we like Max and his unique qualities, this is not a story that can be told by one voice. We have 4 unique voices in this group, but we are all going to tell the same story. You can be authentic while adapting for each and every situation you are in.
So, the first step to be authentic is the first impression. Why? Because there is no second chance to cause an authentic first impression. As we have here today, first impression take a relevant role when we want to give a talk. Because people are going to judge. So when you face the audience is going to look you for the way as you dress, the way as you speak, even the way as you breathe. So if we are talking about authenticity, can we train the first impression? Can we work on that in going to the first impression be authentic? We think no, but Nick Morgan, in an important article that's called How Leaders Become Authentic, give us a very good tips. Even though there are people that never are going to learn how to be authentic. Look at that picture. In that handshake, do you think there is authenticity? No. Why? Why? Because the non-verbal message is more important in the first impression than the spoken message. People understand and read the non-verbal message better and faster than the word that they are going to say. So, gestures speak louder than words. So what said Nick Morgan? Nick Morgan said that we have to work in 4 different states. But focusing in the first impression, we want to focus to be open. What is this of be open? Imagine giving a speaker or giving a talk, and you are in an audience in a closed position. People are going to see you as a threat, that you have fear. So what he told us, what he teach us, is trying to imagine that you are giving your presentation to someone with whom you are completely relaxed. For example, your mother, a closer friend. But when you imagine that situation, not only imagine the mental picture, also, how do you feel? Then the next time that you are going to face the audience, put that feeling, that mental picture in a scene. Remember, non-verbal message is going to be faster than the verbal message.
So you've made a great first impression, and people perceive you as authentic. So where do you go from here? I want to introduce you to the concept of adaptive authenticity, which at first glance sounds a bit oxymoronic, doesn't it? Doesn't being authentic mean that there's just one view of what's true? But the word adaptive, that means that there's a more fluid version associated with what authenticity can be. The reality is that whenever we put ourselves in uncomfortable situations, it can make us feel like an imposter at first. For example, when we try a new communication style, like using grand gestures or making eye contact for at least 4 seconds, but no more than 7. So what does this do to us? What we'll actually end up doing is using authenticity as an excuse for us not to take risks and not to step outside of our comfort zone. I want to introduce you to the Adaptive Authenticity Journey. At the beginning, try behaviors that feel unnatural and often superficial, things that are outside of your comfort zone. But eventually, those things move into a place where they feel genuine, spontaneous, and actually part of authentically you. Here's a short comic that shows where you can start with your comfort zone or even your authenticity zone. So we start there in our safe place. We go out and try a new communication style or leadership style, let's say. We go do that thing, we come back, and we come back to our zone. But if you observe, it's just a little bit larger than it was before. And that represents the space of how we've expanded our range of what is authentic to us. Here's what it looks like in practice. You start at this core authentic you, which doesn't change. It remains largely the same. But through time, practice, and courage, you expand it outwards and give yourself a greater tool set for which you can use. So some people have a very strict view on what rigid authenticity looks like. And there's a few pushbacks people usually give us. They'll say, okay, well, I always want to be true to myself, so I can't really change what authenticity is. We'd respond to that by saying, which self are you referring to? Is this your professional self, your personal self, the self you have in your head? And also, how do you account for the fact that there's a lot of uncertainty in your future and what your self will become? A second pushback is people want to maintain a strict coherence between what they say and do versus what they feel. And despite what touchy-feely tells us, there are circumstances in this world we don't want to exactly show what we're feeling in all cases. Let's say we're in a leadership position for the first time, leading 1,000 people, and we feel nauseous and terrified. You'll probably lose credibility if you're completely open in that situation with your team. Finally, it's important to maintain values-based choices, but also remember that values, too, should be reconsidered and reevaluated, and you're allowed to add values into your life. So I want to leave you with 3 tips to expand your authenticity zone. First of all, learn from diverse mentors. New people will come into your life with new communication styles and leadership styles from whom you can borrow things that inspire you. So give yourself permission to take the things you like and then build your own hybrid of what is authentically you. Second of all, consistently work on being better. Seek constructive feedback and set learning goals for yourself, perhaps even take a course like strategic communications or do a low keynote. And finally, don't stick to your one story. Too often we get grounded in what the version of ourself is, but first of all, our story is growing by one day every single day, and second, our perspective's changing as well, which can help us review our past in a different way and retell our story over time.
So Max has told you how to expand your idea of authenticity internally. But what about times when your external circumstances dictate what authenticity means? Culture changes what authenticity means. A huge part of authenticity depends on how you connect with the audience, and audience in different cultures have different expectations. 2 weeks ago, I reunited with my middle school good friend who happens to be doing an MBA in the UCLA program. So I saw him, and it's been 12 years, so we're a little bit on edge. You know, we start speaking in English because that's what we're more comfortable with nowadays. And we start sharing about our careers, our future plans, our recent moves. And I felt really empowered. I was like, wow, I feel very different. And so after 15 minutes, we decide that, okay, we're going to sort of switch to Vietnamese because now we've established that connection. And all of a sudden, I feel myself just changing. My body started shrinking, you know, my voice got a lot softer, And I started getting really frustrated about this new self that for some reason is coming back to me, and this is my 15-year-old self when I knew him in middle school. In fact, what I was reacting to was different expectations and the associated culture that comes with the language in which we were speaking in. There's studies that actually show this phenomenon. A professor at Baruch College did a study and asked bilingual Hispanic American women to judge what some women in an ad come across as in two different versions, one in English and the other one in Spanish, in a span of 6 months. In English, the women were perceived as dependent on their family, very traditional, while 6 months later, the same ad has very different perspectives from the subjects of the study, where they think that these women actually come across as very extroverted and very independent. So what should you draw from that? There are different pillars for verbal, vocal, and visual in which all the expectations might change. In one culture, vulnerability could mean oversharing in another culture. Speech volume being loud and clear in English might actually mean obnoxious in Vietnamese. Or your body language and your speaking space being very open could actually, taking up a lot of space, could mean arrogance in another culture. So the takeaway is really just learn your surrounding, learn the context. If you're presenting to people in a different culture or a different language, make sure to adapt. And even though you're sticking to your version of yourself, make sure what the audience is, you know what the audience is expecting of you, and don't be an obnoxious American tourist.
All right, before we close then, we want to leave you guys with a few things. So first, Shakir says, hips don't lie, first impressions matter, and so make sure your visual cues are all on point. This is going. 2, it's okay to adapt what is authentic to you and your leadership persona as you change and grow. In fact, you should probably do this because over the course of your career, you're going to move around this big wide world of ours, and it's important to be an effective leader in multiple cultural contexts. Finally, and maybe most importantly, you don't need to be like Max. You have your own unique voice, and embrace it. Tell your story. Thank you.